My name is Tiago. You probably know me or know of me, and I'm just so excited for this, you guys. I've been working on this for the past 2 weeks or so. It's been like my main focus. We really wanted to give you the most valuable 90 minutes, um, full of just information and knowledge, but also mindset shifts, distinctions, do's and don'ts, to both understand what is going on with AI and how to be effective in it. And specifically, if you want to work with us directly, how you can do that. Okay. So I think we'll just get right into it. I'll introduce our admissions lead, Josh Harris, who's going to be joining us. Josh is responsible for all the admissions. So you're going to have to talk to Josh or one of a couple other of our admissions leads. Yeah, welcome, Josh.
Thanks for having me, Tiago.
So,
Yeah, it was really exciting to get to talk to everybody that did the first time around and just hear everyone's unique story, everyone's unique use cases, and then see all those come together. And today we're just going to kind of share a lot of those insights we got from working with those 50 organizations. So it's a lot of really cool stuff to hop through.
yeah, yeah, well said. Let's just get right into it then. I'll turn it over to you, Josh.
All right. So, I think the biggest shift that we saw and the way that I would just kind of put all this in context is really going from a dabbler to a leader. There's a lot of people that are out there and you're tinkering around with different tools, and it's hard to kind of find like what's the roadmap to actually integrate this and get the value out of it. And so, we're really about building an AI first organization. And that's a lot of changes in how you think about integrating AI. And we're going to kind of share what some of those things are here in the next couple slides. So, really the revolution's here. It's upon us. It's not a distant future. It's happening incredibly fast. Those of you guys that have looked at Moore's law versus the rate that AI is just innovating and rapidly coming to fruition. In some estimates, it's as fast as every 3 to 4 months, which is incredible. Meaning that in a year, you're looking at something that could be 3 times more powerful and capable. So even what you see today by the end of the year is going to be incredible in its capabilities. It's not going to slow down. It's only going to get faster. And so really it's about helping reshape how we operate, how we innovate, and how we compete in the workforce and in our markets. Now, I want to kind of open up a little Q&A here, but really what's one shift or trend that you're all seeing in your industry because of AI? So specifically in the field that you work in, what are you seeing? I just want to kind of hear what you guys have out there. Just go ahead and put something in the chat. Like, what are some of those trends that you're seeing? Okay. Yep. Some layoffs, mandatory training. There's a lot of companies that are now saying that, hey, they're not going to hire anyone unless they can prove that AI can't do the job. That's an interesting thing that we're seeing as well. So there's a lot of companies looking for that. Yep. Replacing developers, policy, faster drug development. I mean, there's almost no part of the economy it's not impacting, and it's impacting ultimately productivity. And that productivity, you're seeing that get detached from the worker. That they're looking at saying, hey, how can we actually get these outcomes without hiring more people? And that's going to put pressure. Now, at the same time, there's a lot of opportunity that we're going to cover as well. I mean, what any of these hop out to you, Tiago, that you're seeing here? Wow, quite a few. You're muted still, Tiago, but yeah, there's a ton of them in here.
Whoops. Yeah, there's so many. This is something we always see is like there's so many levels and different business functions and like the full range of like very positive to very negative and everything in between. It's hard to even kind of summarize or categorize all the changes that we're seeing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Uh,
Like
uh,
everything from like email writing, the simplest productivity solo task to like data sovereignty, the biggest, most abstract, wide-ranging topic.
yeah, actually, someone also made a good point here is that you're seeing companies actually lower their acceptance criteria for what's good enough because of the speed at which it can get done with AI, which, knowing that the AI will get better. So yeah, it's putting a lot of pressure on you if you have any of these things as your day-to-day work. It's certainly making an impact there. So the next slide here is, we're going to talk really about what you guys are going to learn here today, just for you that are, hey, what are we going to walk away with? So we're going to talk about the four stages of AI evolution, right? How businesses evolve from manual efforts to a fully AI operated model. Because I think a lot of you go, well, like, how do I go from where I am now, or whatever level of AI I'm using, to, fully deploying every possible benefit of it? And what are the main benefits I should be going through? So we're going to cover that. The second thing is going to be mindset shift, some mindset shifts that you should have here and how you should think about the AI landscape. Because this is another one we've noticed a lot is that, most people are thinking about AI almost, they're thinking about it somewhat limited way, or they're not seeing some of the ways that they should shift how they think about it. And so we're going to share some of the shifts that really made an impact. We're also going to talk about the three-part iterative cycle of AI integration. It's a really repeatable framework that we've developed to help make AI practical and sustainable in your business. That's a key point here. There's a lot of very called fashionable or fad or just tactical things that are in the market. And those are really crowding out the foundation, which is the strategic, evergreen things that you can do. They're going to give you, a nice shelf life so that you can actually put your head down, do the work, and not be in that constant state of FOMO of, am I working on the right things? And then we're also going to cover really what we put together, an implementation program and a roadmap. And whether you want to do that or not, you're still going to leave today with a lot of really, I think, insightful shifts and things that you can implement today just in the way you're using AI in your organization. So the question really is, how much is your organization leaving on the table by treating AI like a fancy search engine? And that's really the biggest opportunity and the biggest cost here, right? It's like not only is AI going to disrupt and really transform the way everybody's working, but there is a first mover advantage that's pretty incredible. That's quite never quite been there before that we're going to be able to talk about how you guys can take advantage of that. Now, one of the cool things that we saw with the first beta cohort, and the reason we want to touch on this is more just to help you understand the content you're getting here is like what the results of that content was that we're going to share today. So we had about 88 participants, and this has included owners, C-suite directors, managers, all over the world, all different sizes, companies from all the different spectrum, anywhere you could imagine. And we had over 80% of those individuals we worked with exceed the expectations. And the rest of them all said it met their expectations. And, most people's expectations in situations is pretty high. So we were pretty happy with that. And the net promoter score we got was 75, which, if you know anything about a net promoter score, I mean, that's higher than you get at Apple, Amazon, Google, or Costco. And those are services I think a lot of you guys have utilized and generally don't have a lot of complaints about. So we were just very, very blown away just by how effective the process was. And it was somewhat collaborative as well. Now, here are some examples because we got some of these questions like, hey, what were some of the things that you did? And this is by no means an extensive list, right? But one of the things we did was we built an RFP response engine that saved weeks per proposal. So you can get these things out really, really quickly. We built an AI first MVP, replacing entire software development cycles. And, basically built an automated customer retention system and even a complete hiring package created in minutes. And so we saw that there's a lot of different use cases out here that you can really, really deploy that are really tangible, immediately providing great value for your organization. Here's a couple quotes we got. So I used the hiring prompt to create an entire hiring process in less than 10 minutes. This would have taken me forever and still required hundreds of hours of interviewing. So we've completely transformed the hiring process for organizations where you have to go through a lot of applicants. And most of you know the difference between an A player and a B player is absolutely dramatic in what it can do for the trajectory of your business. Another example we got here is we were looking to incorporate AI into our company, but they were stuck at the excited but clueless stage. And so the workshop we did taught them to really look at different mental models of how to think about AI and how to apply it to the business. But most importantly, how to create the brain of the business. So it no longer required him to be a part of all the different roles in the company. So now the employees of the company can access his brain without accessing his time. That's a big, big game changer. If you're an organization, you find that a lot of people are coming to you to approve things or sign off on things, that makes a huge difference. So really cut the time you spend on tasks by 90% in some cases. You can do a lot more with less time. And we found that a lot of solutions, the biggest bottlenecks that are in the process of implementing them now. Easily saved 12 months of figuring out on his own, and he got over 5x the value from that.
Yeah, I unmuted here. Yes, okay. I just want to point out here, like, it's funny because it's such a kind of small, intimate experience. I now know all these people. Like I've interacted, spoken quite a bit with almost every single person in the cohort. And it's so funny because Kirk was like a straight up skeptic. He was like very conservative and very skeptical about everything throughout the whole, 4 or 5 weeks. And then to see him use these numbers, 90% plus, saved me 12 months. I mean, these are if we claimed this in our marketing, it wouldn't even be believable. It wouldn't even be credible. Excuse
Yep.
me. And so this is one reason I wanted to really share a lot of these quotes and in their entirety is like I want you to hear from these objective, neutral third parties who have actually been through this experience, what the impact has been, in their own words from their own perspective.
Yep. And we're going to get right into like what were the biggest takeaways, right? And things that you can implement, right? Just for you guys who are looking at this now. So moving on, this is now your show here, Tiago. Kind of walk them through the 4 stages here.
Yeah, so I wanted to do a couple things with the 4 stages of business evolution. There's really two purposes. One is to give you some upfront value by kind of pulling out like one of the pieces of content from the program itself. I think we covered this in session 1 or 2. This last cohort, it was one of the most mind-blowing and eye-opening things that people saw in the program. So it's sort of like a preview and a demonstration of the specificity of a lot of the material we cover. And then there's a secondary purpose here too, which is we found that many companies are not ready. Many companies are not ready to fully take advantage of the power of AI. This has been a big surprise. It was a surprise to us, it was a surprise to the participants. We even turned away. If I recall, Josh, you had some companies you thought were just not ready for this, and you straight up turned down their applications. And so we almost want to give this to you as a kind of like like an evaluation or an assessment to see if you're even ready as an organization and as a person, as a leader to take advantage of this. And at various stages. So after I present what each of these stages looks like, I'm going to give you like a little quiz, ask you to write down which of the symptoms you're experiencing, and then at the end you'll have basically like a self-assessment of which stage you're at in your business. Okay, so this is the overview. It's basically 4 stages. And the reason we call this the 4 stages of business evolution and not say the 4 stages of, AI implementation is the first 2 stages aren't really about AI. The first two stages are really just about setting a foundation of process, right? And AI can help with that, but it's really only in stage 3 that the full potential of AI gets unlocked. Okay? So stage 1 is by far the most common stage, is what we call a heroic effort business. Okay. So listen as I describe this business to see if you can see yourself in it. The main resources in this kind of business are the owner's time, energy, and relationships. Okay. And just a little note here. Um, Everything that we're going to talk about today is in the language of business owners, and that's just for consistency and clarity. But only, I think, about half of the last cohort were actual business owners. The rest were VPs, C-level, directors, department heads, division leaders, team managers. So just substitute kind of the language, instead of owner, you might be owner of a business, you might be the owner of a team or the owner of a business unit or the owner of a, function in a business. Like whatever is your unit of the organization that you're a part of. I mean, even if you're a solo, like a freelancer or solopreneur, or you are in a 2-person or 3-person company, we had a bunch of those. So just kind of adapt this language to your own situation. But the processes in this kind of organization tend to be ad hoc, inconsistent, undocumented. It's based on whatever or whoever is screaming the loudest, whatever is most on fire. And the clearest sign of a stage 1 business is that they look at increasing resources. Okay, so do you ever find yourself saying, "Oh, if we just had one more person, or if we just had this, these few more roles on the team, or if we just had a few more investors, or if we just had more cash, more revenue, or we just had more of something, right? And that's, a perfectly natural assumption. The problem is that growing by adding just more is linear expenses and can often just amplify processes that are disorganized and chaotic to make them even more disorganized and chaotic, right? So just one level of additional detail. Let's really look at what are the limitations? Like what's wrong with a heroic effort business? Why not do that? And these are the main ones. First is scale. You can't really have more than about 12 to 25 direct reports to any one person, right? You're completely dependent on the owner. Business cannot function without them. Your knowledge is concentrated and in someone's head and sort of siloed. And then in terms of finances, it's really difficult for a business like this to exceed around 1.5 million EBITDA, 1.5 million profit. And if you're looking at exit, whatever exit means for you, that could be IPOing, or it could be getting more investors, or it could be selling private shares, or it could just be, if you're not a business owner, exiting a role, exiting one department of the business, exiting one job or one career and pivoting to another. There's many, many different kinds of exits. But at the level of the organization, you're limited to, between 3 and 4.5 million at a quite low multiple, right? So that 2 to 3x is you're basically just getting, 2 or 3 years of profit in a sale of the whole company. So here's the quiz. I would love for you to get a little notepad or open up a digital note on your computer, or, or just you could remember it in your head. How many of these eight, call them symptoms, do you experience right now? Okay, do you work 80 plus hours a week? Do you hire based on immediate need? What's most on fire? Do you cash flow? Do you manage your cash flow day to day? Does every client get a custom, totally unique experience? Do you, as the owner of whatever is the business unit, personally handle major clients? Do you and your team kind of reinvent how you solve problems every time, again and again? Do you prioritize what is most on fire? And do strategic decisions change frequently? Just write down, the only thing you have to write down is how many of these, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0, how many of these apply to you currently? And I'll give you just a minute to do that. All right, let's move on. Stage 2. So what does it look like to advance, to ascend to the second stage? It's really about being process driven. Okay, it's about being documented. The ways that you create value are are driven by process. They're systematized, not ad hoc. So in terms of resources, you have specialized roles, defined systems. Your processes are documented, standardized, measured. Your priorities are identified according to clear frameworks. You have strategic planning. Basically, the organization has become a machine that works without you, or really without any particular person. Okay. To add some more specificity, you can now exceed 25 employees. Okay. EBITDA per employee, the profit per employee, may actually be slightly lower at first, right? You may actually lose efficiency as you exceed that 20 to 25 or 30 headcount number. But then beyond 50 employees, when you actually kind of get the systems running, it will often improve. You can go beyond the ceiling of EBITDA and scale to 5 to 10 million plus. Your multiple is now more like 4 to 8x. Okay, if you have proprietary systems, especially AI systems, that can be even higher. And in terms of owner lifestyle, and again, I really want to emphasize this is business owners, but also product owners, team owners, function owners, whatever is the thing that you own and are responsible for, you're going to have much more freedom and the value creation is going to depend less on you being there all the time, which is something I think we all want. And then once again, which of these eight characteristics or experiences or symptoms apply to you? Which do you recognize? Do you have defined roles with specialized skills and knowledge? Do you have clear, documented organizational knowledge assets? Is your org structure formalized? Do you have a training system, an onboarding system for new hires, budget and planning procedures, quality control checkpoints, strategic plan that actually guides decisions, isn't just a, lost in a drawer somewhere? And is success in your organization kind of evaluated according to performance metrics? Just write down the number of these that apply to you. And at this point, you may notice that any given organization or department or team is not just in one stage. You're probably spread across different stages. Maybe some of the activities that you do are at a more advanced stage or a more basic stage. So it's kind of like a distribution of stages that you're across. I'll give you just 20 seconds to look at those. All right. And let's move on. So a little brief aside is the main thing that actually keeps you or what makes it hard to go from one stage to another is really your mindset. Yeah, there's tools you have to upgrade, there's systems you have to create, there's team training you have to do, but it's really comes down to you as the owner or the leader or the manager, the mindset shift that you have to make. So from stage 1 to 2, that's from doer to designer. Your job is not to do the work, it's to design the system that does the work. Okay. So stage 3, this is where it really starts to become about AI. Okay. Up until stage 2 or 2.5, you're just becoming more process driven, which is a very pre-AI. I mean, it's a very old idea to become process driven. But once you do, then AI really can start to go to town, right? Until you have a process, AI can't do much. It can just come in and maybe answer a question or maybe perform a task. But an AI, if you look at the world or look at your business through the lens of AI, it needs a process that it can then start to automate, simplify, streamline, and perform on your behalf. Okay, so the AI augmented or enhanced business is really about AI tools plus human expertise. Processes become semi-automated, or you can think of them as AI assisted. And priorities become about human judgment, but supported at every step along the way by AI generated insights. Okay, so you start to become an organization where AI handles the routine. It's really the AI's job to quote unquote run the business. And the focus of humans is really just handling exceptions, handling special cases, handling advanced scenarios. So to be a little more specific, excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. You could start to have anywhere between a 1.5 to 10x increase in EBITDA per employee, depending on industry, which is just crazy, right? My business partner in creating this program, Hayden, he has a variety of different businesses, and his belief is really that the new standard, the new benchmark for AI first businesses is going to be at least 1 million in EBITDA per employee. Just think about that for a sec. 1 million, not in revenue, in profit. 1 million in profit. So you have a 5-person company doing 5 million in profit. So probably something between like 5 and 15 million in revenue using AI. You start to need a very different kind of employee where one of their main skills, if not their main skill, becomes their ability to leverage AI. Okay, there's the 1 million EBITDA per employee becomes possible. And honestly, we're already starting to see this. We're starting to see numerous examples of billion-dollar companies or multi-billion or even deca-billion-dollar companies with less than 30 employees, which is kind of unprecedented in the history of business. Okay. And then the exit multiple starts to become kind of unknown. We haven't really seen enough exits to know what it is. But it's probably based on, things like discounted cash flow models rather than traditional multiples. So these eight symptoms, which of these do you experience? And it's likely you probably experience, one or more of them in at least some aspects of your job. Employees are focused mainly on strategy, creativity, and human relationships. The AI systems themselves start to become IP, start to become business assets of significant value. AI is kind of your first pass at any kind of content, internal or external, that you're creating. You have automated reporting, providing real-time insights, decision support systems. Emerging opportunities are something that AI kind of flags for you. Resources are allocated based on predictive models and scenarios, and human judgment really becomes about values. What is the value? What is the thing that matters? What's the thing that's important? What's the thing that we believe in or that we stand for? And the execution of those values becomes democratized, becomes something that almost any company can do at the same level because they have AI's help. I'll give you about 20 seconds to just write down how many of those stage 3 features you currently experience. All right. Okay. I see some of you raising your hands, which I love. We're going to have time at the very end to address all those questions. So hold on to those. So the mindset shift here is really, okay, you're a system designer, and now you're more like a technology integrator. You're going up a level again and really thinking of your team as a team of humans plus AIs. Okay, it's not one or the other. There's a lot of evidence that it's really humans leveraging AIs, humans complemented by AIs that are the real, force multiplier today. And finally, we get to stage 4, which is AI operated. You can think of this as the automated business. Okay. Resources are really primarily managed, deployed, maintained, um, delivered by AI with just humans in an oversight role. Processes are fully automated or almost fully automated with exceptions. Humans define the objectives and AI executes on them. And you can almost think of it as the business runs itself within the parameters and with the objectives and goals that we set. Okay, this might seem kind of sci-fi, super futuristic, but honestly, we're seeing maybe the very first examples of this or certain functions of businesses, like certain departments or certain products or services become stage 4. Okay, so it's still a little bit futuristic, but not as much as you would have said even just a few years ago. So this starts to become highly speculative, but and we don't really know, to be honest, what this is going to look like. But the EBITDA per employee is just going to be something we've never seen before. The first movers in this space, I really believe, Hayden really believes, will be 1 to 2 person billion-dollar companies. Okay, we're really not far from that. Okay, and then margins will be just extraordinary, 90%, 95%, 99.9% margins, at least for a short period until the competition catches up. And because of that, because competition will be so fierce and fast, moat building, your moat, the thing that makes it impossible or very difficult for other companies to compete with you, starts to become kind of one of the main parts of designing one of these stage 4 businesses. Okay. And then the exit multiples, we really don't know, but they're also going to be unprecedented. Who knows what an exit multiple looks like for such a company? But we're going to find out probably in the next 2 to 3 years. Okay. So again, a little bit speculative, but some of you may have one or two or three or more of these experiences already. But do you have AI agents that manage entire functions that have almost like jobs within your organization? Are humans mainly serving as like exceptional specialists for, special cases? Do you have self-monitoring systems? Do you have end-to-end automation of core business flows? Are your processes optimized, not just run by AI, but optimized and continuously improved by AI? The strategic objectives, of course, are still set by humans, but the AI translates those into tactical priorities. And resource allocation is something that can change and kind of dynamically adjust in real time. Okay. Give you 20 seconds to write down how many of these you currently experience. Okay, let's move on. Mindset shift here is really even one more level up from technology integrator to orchestra conductor. You set certain parameters, the direction, quality standards, maybe the vision, the mission, the values, certain other things. And then the business runs in very much the same way that you design a software program and the software program just runs. Okay, we're going to see the merging of software applications and entire organizations are going to become kind of indistinguishable. All right. So this is the final evaluation. Looking at the numbers that you wrote down, I would say which had the highest number? Where did most of your yes responses fall into? And if you want, you can even say like 0.5, like stage 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. Which of those stages is your organization mostly in? All right, I see a lot of ones, 1.8, some twos, even 2.5s. I don't think I see any. Oh, I see a 3, between 2 and 3. Yeah, I think the most common among the last cohort, they were usually between 1.5 to 2 to 2.5. So that's kind of what we're seeing here as well. 0. You might want to get those new computers first, and then you can join a future cohort. That would be my recommendation. Okay. So I know these kind of like overarching stages can be a little abstract, a little kind of, high level, but I wanted to give you kind of just like a mini example case study from Phil, who's the founder of an online school called Digital DJ Tips. So they teach people around the world how to become DJs and how to make a business out of being a DJ. Pretty fun. And the way he described it is that this is opening your eyes. And I hope there was at least one eye-opening or mindset shifting idea or observation or prediction in those 4 stages that we just covered. Because this is at this relatively early stage of AI's development, that's really what it's about, opening your eyes to what's even possible. Okay, and then within that landscape, what is the correct way, in Phil's words, the correct way of approaching it in order to get those results for yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be approaching, and this is what I really want you to avoid, I really want to save you from, is approaching AI piecemeal, kind of haphazardly, making a lot of mistakes, especially, I know I hate making mistakes that I find out later could have been avoided or that I just didn't have the right groundwork. And then this is really the key thing I wanted you to get from this quote. Ultimately, AI is not going to save a badly organized business. And so rightfully, a lot of this course is about business management as much as anything. So that's the thing. There's a lot of people trying to have AIs save them or allow them to avoid ever having to organize their business, by which I mean systematize it, make it process driven, make it documented. You can't skip that step. You can't skip step two and go straight to step three. I'm telling you. Okay. That's what I wanted you to take away from this. Okay. Let me just take a break right there. I know that was a lot of information. Do you see anything in the chat or in the Q&A panel that you want to address, Josh?
Well, the takeaway I had that I think is another point worth making is, well, you can't skip step one and two. AI can greatly reduce the time effort involved in scooting through those steps. So, for lack of a better word, if any of you guys are procrastinators or the types of people who like to wait to the last minute, it's never been easier to actually organize those things. Before, it would have taken forever to sit down and actually create an SOP or a process. And now with this, if you lay the right groundwork, that can be done in minutes. Something that would have taken, we looked at one of the examples of Hayden's company. It took 6 months of all this back and forth to actually build out like a documented, thorough process of going through and doing a business valuation, as an example. So, that is the other game changer. Like, well, you can't skip those steps. Those steps can be done way faster with AI now. And I think that's like, now there's no excuse, for lack of a better word. If you've always thought, I don't want to sit down and I don't want to kind of do the work by hand, we don't have to. So now it's just about doing the work. And, before you had to walk, and now you can kind of take a self-driving car, in a metaphorical way. So it's just a matter of, do you want to get to that next stage? And what are you really waiting for? Now it's easier than ever. And other people are going to do it. So as things happen, as the market changes, the floor, if you want to be maybe in the middle of the pack and just not get left behind, what's required just to be middle of the pack is continuing to go forward. But now you can jump to the front and be, pack leader if you really want to, and you have that ambition and you want to go do that.
Yeah, that's such a great point. I didn't mean to say it's not that, you're completely on your own by yourself and nothing and no one can help you until you get to stage two. It's not that at all. In fact, much of what we spend the program doing is getting people from 1.5 to 2 or 1 to 1.5 using AI. And it's truly remarkable. Like if you look at something like ISO 9001, which is a well-known, widely known, process for making your organization, documented and process driven. That might take months to years. Dozens and dozens of people on your team will be involved. It'll take up huge
Mm-hmm.
amounts of their bandwidth. And Hayden has done that at tremendous expense in time and money. And now you can, in 15 minutes, or half an hour, come up with something of similar quality. So it's like a cheat code. It's like the mountain that you previously had to climb, there's now a gondola. And it now makes sense. Instead of needing to be, a 50 to 100 to 200 person business to even be able to consider systematizing your business in this way, we're seeing 5-person businesses do it, 3-person, 2-person businesses achieving that level of documentation of their processes.
Yeah. I mean, I think Hayden put it best. He said, now you have these systems that are almost reserved for like an enterprise sized business that you can now implement in your small business to help you get big faster. And so it's really about saying, hey, it's kind of like shifting gears. If you think of these as gears, it's not really, a normal progression. It's almost an exponential as you go from the 4 stages, but you can't skip, you can't just jump to second gear. But laying the groundwork, if you're missing some of those pieces, getting it right ultimately is going to help you go way faster for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I see some really interesting questions and comments in the chat, but I think we're just going to go ahead and move on um, for the sake of efficiency, and there will be time at the end. Well, plenty of time to answer those. Sound good? Okay. So let's kind of zoom in here. In fact, I saw many of the questions in the chat were like, okay, but how do you do this? What does it look like? What is your recommended strategy? So let's talk about that. So, okay, one of the main questions that we get is just like, what is the program about? Like, what what does it contain? What do you do? It's like it's this big mystery. And I really don't mean for it to be a mystery. Part of the difficulty is that we have shared the curriculum before, but it's like the names of the modules don't even really make sense or the explanation of why they're important until you have, for example, the Empower framework, which is the overarching framework of the entire program, which we introduced in session one. Okay. So let me try to describe how this program is structured. It's really quite simple. There's an introductory like couple sessions, session 0 and session 1 are sort of just like getting you oriented and up to speed. And then there's one or two at the end that are sort of like summarizing what you've learned, creating an implementation and action plan, next steps. But the middle 7 sessions, 7 out of 11, I guess, yeah, 11, follow the same format, which is the one you see here. It's really like a 3-step process that we just run again and again and again for every single function of your business, one after another. Okay. So we start, it's not on here, but we do present, there is like, of course, material that you need to know. And it's usually just business frameworks, right? It's like how to think about the customer journey and the customer life cycle. It's how to map and identify all the different enabling processes of your business. It's, Clayton Christensen's RPP framework. There's sort of this like common ground, this foundation of just like general business knowledge or business frameworks that we need to cover for each function of the business because that way you and I, all of you people in the cohort and us, the instructors, share the same language and are referring to the same concepts. But then also you can teach your AI coach or advisor, those same concepts and be far, far more specific than just kind of using vague, ambiguous business terminology. So after we present that material and we like quiz you on it, we talk about it, we make sure it really sinks in, we follow these 3 steps. The first one is we run an assessment. And this is a prompt. Okay, it's a prompt not just to, you know, answer one question or complete a task, but to break down one function of your business. And when I say function, I mean like HR or product and R&D or marketing or sales or finance, financial management, strategic planning. There's like the usual suspects. We run an assessment. It's a questionnaire that you do inside of an LLM so that it's interactive back and forth. And so the LLM can kind of customize it to your situation and to your language. That assessment gives you a diagnostic report. This is exactly what is strong and weak, what is already exists or what is missing in this function of your business, the opportunities for improvement, the biggest gaps, the critical, missing links, all that kind of stuff, which would be useful on its own. Right? There's, services out there that charge a lot of money for such an assessment. Excuse me. But that's just the beginning because we can then get that diagnostic report, put it into a project, a dedicated space within an LLM, such as Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini. Combine it with a couple other things, such as your master prompt, which we help you develop, which is like the broader context of your entire organization, right? Because you want to take that into account. And then a custom prompt that we call CXO. So that's CMO, CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, CFO. It's almost like we are creating one by one for each major function of your business, a C-level executive, strategic advisor, analyst, and consultant, so that now and going forward, you have not just a bunch of files and information, but an entity, an intelligence that you can talk to, discuss ideas with, get advice from, right? And it's based not just on just random things, it's based on the diagnostic report. Okay. So you can really think of what we're doing in this program as creating a board of advisors or a team of analysts or however you want to put it, that then become your almost like your executive team, your leadership team going forward. And then you work with that advisor on that specific function of the business on an action plan. What are the biggest opportunities, like I said, and then just not just what is the opportunity, but what is a prioritized step-by-step action plan for addressing it. Not again, not on your own, not by yourself, but with AI's help. All right. So a few of the things that these assessments help you achieve: identify deficiencies, Like it's so funny because I have the sense most people are using AI as an administrative assistant, as in other words, the lowest rung of the corporate hierarchy. But in a weird way, AI currently is better at the C-level tasks, right? It can't log into your bank and pay your bills. That's beyond current capabilities, but it absolutely can give you incredibly targeted and relevant strategic advice about, say, how to improve your product portfolio or how to improve your onboarding and training or what changes in the market based on, for example, the deep research, analysis would be the biggest opportunity for you. It's a really weird mindset shift to think of the highest most leveraged tasks in your business, not the lowest ones. Okay. And then this is the last thing is we don't just want like an action plan. We don't just want like an analysis, but we then want to actually go into that function of the business and do a few things. For example, create SOPs. We have a four-level framework that we teach you because there's different levels of detail, different levels of abstraction that are needed for different people in the business. So we'll cover at least levels 1 through 3, the first three levels of those SOPs. We map the customer journey, right? Because we don't want just what the process looks like from our point of view, from an internal point of view, but what it looks like and how it impacts the customer. And then, because what you're going to find is far more, implementation opportunities than you can do in the short term, we're going to prioritize them, make a matrix based on what is highest impact plus lowest effort, and start there. Okay, and then because that process is something you completely own or control, that three-part iterative cycle, right? There's nothing proprietary about that. You don't have to subscribe to our software. You could run that every month or every quarter or every year, although I recommend doing it more often than that. So you become completely self-sufficient in running the whole cycle that we go through for any part of the business going forward. Here's how Harvey put it. He's in Turkey, runs Belize Studios and actually a whole portfolio of he has like a climbing gym and manufacturing plant. So a lot of people like that in the cohort actually who have multiple ventures. But he said it's just been an eye-opener again, that term, on what was lacking in our business, as well as understanding what were the true possibilities for AI implementations. Okay, so this is the last portion that is on my side, and then I'll turn it over to Josh. But I want to sort of like highlight and then like what's the word? Disband or like talk about various assumptions or various like expectations that you might have coming into a course on AI. So you're very clear up front what this is about. Okay. And yes, this is about what our particular program, Second Brain Enterprise, is and isn't. But like Josh said, even if you don't join us, even if you decide, no, this is not for me, please go find some other program or guide or coach or consultant. Don't do this on your own. And this is really the approach, that the set of mindsets or approaches that I would recommend you adopt, however you go about it. It's not about individual AI use. Like in a weird way, it almost, it's not that it doesn't matter. It does matter, but the leverage that AI represents is not going to be fully realized at the individual level. There is no prompt that is sophisticated enough. There's no, oh, I hooked this up to that, the fancy integration. Nothing at the individual level has anywhere near the leverage that you have when you actually change the company, when you change how the company is structured, how the company operates, how the team is organized. So that's really where we're going to focus. It's not about complex multi-step prompts. If you have to sit down and type up this really complicated, fancy prompt, you've kind of already lost, right? You've waded too far downstream. You really want to go way upstream to a master prompt. You want to provide all of that context that it needs upfront, all at once, one time in a single centralized document that you can then use in all your LLM interactions going forward. And we've now shared a 3-part YouTube series about master prompts, which maybe my team can share in the chat because I really believe every single person in the world using AI needs to have a master prompt. It's not about automating existing work. That's actually a common mistake. You can automate a process that shouldn't exist in the first place. You can automate a job that only makes sense for a human to occupy. As soon as you add AI into the equation, you have to think in terms of jobs to be done. You have to think in terms of processes with inputs and outputs. You have to think in a much more systematic, almost mechanical way. It's not about any particular LLM. People get incredibly and mistakenly caught up in which LLM to use, or even within an LLM, which model to use. Honestly, doesn't really matter. Every technique and thing we're going to teach you is completely agnostic, both to the model that you're using and to the LLM product that you're using. Okay, so like during the cohort that happened last month, there was like two major announcements. I think it was OpenAI released o3 like a week or two before the cohort started, and then Gemini released 2.5, and it was fine. Oh, great. A new platform. Let me just get my master prompt and everything else and move over there. There was no lock-in, no barrier to moving from one place to another. It's not even really about faster execution, to be honest, right? Because if you can get a process completely automated, how fast is that executed? It's essentially instantaneous, right? If you can remove all humans from the loop, now it can just happen at the speed of light, essentially. That's not faster. Instantaneous is a whole different category than faster. And as I said before, it's not about having your AI be a low-level administrative assistant. I mean, it can do that too, yes, but it's mostly about having it be a strategic partner, which is something that most business leaders have not done, is really invited AI to the table, to the leadership table, which is where it's most powerful.
I
And
think
with
just
that,
speaking on that point, Tiago, it's like another way to think about this is a lot of people are obsessed with like, hey, this new car came out or that new car came out, when the biggest improvements can actually come from just becoming a better driver.
hmm
Because that way you can switch, you can take that knowledge that you're documenting and you can put it in whatever vehicles come out. Because most of these vehicles, it's unlikely, that there's going to be some LLM that's going to come out and just be exponentially better than every LLM. And even if it is, it won't last very long, right? Like those gaps get closed. And so it's kind of like all these, it's like watching a horse race. There are ones getting ahead by a nose, but then they're all kind of running and they're all getting faster. And so creating that framework to take advantage of that is key. And that really kind of keys into the two paths here, which, path number one is you can try to figure it out on your own. And, the reality is you're out there by yourself trying to figure out, what content to pay attention to and what's relevant and applicable to you. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes that don't need to be made, right? There's two ways you can go. There's simply not enough time to make all the mistakes there are in the world on your own, right? And so you want to align yourself with people that have figured out some of those things. And, half those things, more than half, we probably figured out internally, but the rest of it, you can figure out with a group that's in a cohort with you. And so that's really what the second choice is you can surround yourself with guides, a community, and a proven approach to strategically install AI into the heart of your business. It just kind of comes down to which path you want to take, at the end of the day. So, another quote here we got from someone else is really the sooner you start, greater the opportunity because you leap far ahead of everyone else who's really trying to figure it out for themselves. A lot of people are still stuck at the finish line. They're not even in the race. And so anyone who embraces this knowledge and guidance is, you're never going to look back. And there's a huge opportunity right now to become a highly competent in really leveraging AI. And this cohort, this program is going to give you the framework to achieve that. So I have another question I want to ask the rest of you guys is really like, how concerned are you about just your business falling behind due to competitors out there and other people in the market using AI? Just curious to hear some of you guys' thoughts here.
yeah, make sure in the chat if you want everyone to see your message to click the little blue drop down and select everyone, not just hosts and panelists. Or you can
Yep.
also, if you just want us to see it, you can do that too.
Yep. And there's really two camps, guys. There's people that are concerned and people who are concerned but taking action. That's I can summarize. That's what I see here in the chat, right? Because even the people that are doing it are they're doing it because they are concerned. So basically, everyone's concerned. The question is, are you going to do something about it? Right? That's really what it comes down to. Is like, what are you going to do about that? Because I think at this point, I think there's a rare consensus, I think, with this technology now. If you look at it, the internet, cell phones, other things, other major technological advancements, it kind of took a while, I think, for the public to kind of get on board and see it. But a lot of people, I think most people at this point can see, and a lot of them only see the tip of the iceberg of what's possible. So, and obviously you guys all being here on this training shows that, you're willing to take action on that. But there's a difference between just consuming and doing. And that's what we can talk about here on the next slide. So let's talk about what you're actually going to get. Okay. You're going to get a complete AI operating system for every department. We're going to help you create your own master prompt that emplaces your entire team. So if you're a founder, if you're in a key role and there's a lot of people that need information from you to be able to make decisions and move quickly, you're going to be able to deleverage that from yourself. You're going to get some direct expert guidance and real-time implementation. And really, I think the part that we didn't talk about enough last time was just the elite network that you get here. I was just blown away with the conversations I had with each of the individuals of the quality and the caliber of individuals in here. And so even the room and the networking that can happen by just being around other people that are doing this, right? Where you can bounce ideas off other people. The worst thing you can do is do anything alone and not have someone to say, hey, what do you think of this, right? Or what's your perspective on this? What am I missing here? Because we can all get siloed down in our own work and you're too close to it to see, the forest for the trees. And so having that network, I think, is one of the biggest advantages here as well. It's just you've got other people that are on the path that you're trying to succeed on who are, they're looking to learn, develop, and grow and help bring out more from you. So that's huge. And so, the other big thing about this is we've taken the risk away from this. As we mentioned in the beginning, we've never had something that we've done where literally every single participant said that we exceeded. Over 80% said we exceeded their expectations, and the rest of them said we matched it. So, to have something like that, and the fact that we basically offer you basically a refund period. The first week, if you go through this and you decide it's not for you, we're not here to take your money and have you work with us and not achieve the value. We're here to commit to providing that value. And we're happy to say, like, that wasn't the case. Pretty much everybody that was in this got an incredible experience. So if you were thinking like, hey, I'm not sure, don't worry. There is, kind of a zero risk aspect to this. But additionally, you're able to have a conversation with us about any of your specific use cases and concerns. You can definitely book a call and talk with me personally. So it reminds me of another quote we got here from an individual who's done, if you look him up, he's quite an impressive individual. And so obviously it's not just what's said, it's who's saying it. And so for me as a founder and CEO, it connected everything, right? This connected the vision, the integration, the leadership, clarity, the system design, all in one high performance framework. So it's not about learning more, it's about thinking clearer, moving faster, and building a company that scales without chaos. So if you're serious about building an intelligent, aligned organization in the AI era, this is the best investment you can make. And that's the key thing, right? Is that you can go out and try to Frankenstein this and find different things here and there and say, okay, I've got this and I've got that. But then you can't have anybody really help you troubleshoot those things because they haven't seen them all work together. They're like, well, I only know how this little piece works. So here you get a holistic system to really do everything kind of front to back. So as far as who gets in, this is not just hey, anybody who wants to can come in, right? We want to handpick the individuals. And so we had over 4,000 people on the wait list from the last time around. And we're really, we have to talk to you individually and really make sure this is a fit. So this is CEOs, executives, leaders. If you are responsible for a team of people that have to implement things, this is going to make sense for you. So we've had organizations that worked with us that were solopreneurs all the way up to 400 plus employees. And, really we're here with people that want to execute, not theorize, right? That are in that action stage, not just the learning stage. So another quote we have here is, I practice EOS traction, scaling up methodology, and work with several coaches. This is by far the best investment, hands down. Now, as far as really what you're going to get in here, it's not just operations, it's not just marketing. We're really covering everything you need, all departments, and having them all work together like a second brain, right? We've got sales, marketing, operations, hiring, finance, customer service, and everything. And so now I want to open up a question here, which is, which area of your business do you think would benefit most from an AI first integration? Right? Which area do you think would benefit the most? Okay, a lot of operations, all of them. Yep. Yeah, and basically, I mean, every one of you is touching on different areas of that we talked about, but operations is definitely a theme, right? Because it's really like, hey, how do we organize, delegate, and manage functions in the business? And that's operations. It's got to manage all of that. Yeah, cool. So the other thing is like obviously there's a money investment, but the time investment for most of you that's the more important thing. But they're really from our experience, right? The individuals we work with are highly strapped for time, very busy. But we really found that the time investment, 10 to 15 hours a week, was really the best for you to get the most out of the program. We had some individuals that did less and still got great value. But it always comes down to having a constraint at the end of the day does help. And, at the end of the day, I think it's really, really important to make sure that you set aside the right time for this. We have more information that you guys can see when you go through the application. But, really, this is designed to not just learn, but actually implement these things live. Because I think many of you have gone out there and it's like you learn all these great things. And then either A, you go to implement it later and it's like you're missing pieces and you're not able to get that feedback, or B, you just never get around to doing it, right? And you just fill your head with all this knowledge that you can't actually utilize. So there's a heavy, heavy, heavy focus on making sure you actually implement these things because you will not get any value unless it's actually done. And that's a heavy focus of what we do. So one more quote here. Basically, because of this incredible support, not only do I get to keep up with the course, but I was able to apply what I learned in real time, landed several lucrative opportunities for his business directly. And basically, this program is built for professionals serious about growth and provides the structure needed to make it happen. That's a quote there from Rachel. So all sorts of incredible feedback from doing it. So really, this is about future-proofing your investment, right? We're building this on evergreen principles, not tools. There's a lot of courses out there that are very fashionable. It might be obsolete within a month. The way I like to think about this using another car analogy is we're helping you build the most aerodynamic frame, which is your business, so that no matter what engines come out, you can swap them out, but you've got a vehicle that can go as fast as possible. And then teaching you how to be the best driver of it. And everyone right now is obsessed with the engine. If you get too obsessed with the engine, you're not going to get anywhere. You're always going to be in the pit stop, always going to be in the shop trying to swap it out. And when the reality is you can get a lot farther just by doing that. So there's also going to be an option to join future cohorts at a reduced price. There's a community that revolves that really is going to evolve with AI, and you've got lifetime access to the course material that we put out there for you guys. Now, another big thing here is the instructor advantage. You've got some incredible people working with you that have real hands-on experience, not theoretical, not, hey, this sounds like conceptually it could work. These are things that are proven, that have already been done, that are being done and iterated on. So you've got Tiago's proven techniques used by hundreds of thousands of people with the second brain. I mean, he's, I think, uniquely qualified to do this because he spent the last 10 years helping create a process to organize all of your knowledge. And then now AI is the second act of that. You've got Hayden's 12 plus businesses he's scaled to 7, 8 figures, and all the advisory he does with helping people buy and sell companies. He has a unique vantage point to what's actually working. You've got Dale with his 20 plus years of executive experience working on finance, all sorts of things. And you've got Julia's expertise as an AI operator and general manager. So all of this just equals your unfair advantage, where you've got people that really know what they're doing who can help you take this to the next level. So another quote here that I really liked that we heard from one of our people is I gained a sparring partner and a co-CEO that has read all of the business books and can help me apply them ASAP, all in context of your business, right? Getting that personalized coach. So as far as your investment goes, the investment for it is 10,000, or actually I think it's 9,995. Let me give you $5 off, I think. And really, this is for millions in efficiency gains, and I think easily the highest ROI calculation that you can have for your organization, because it's going to replace work that needs to be done, and that's really what ultimately makes up the speed at which you can get things done in your business. So another quote here I have is, this course is really everything you need to supercharge your business with AI and compete in that coming wave. So from here, I think we can kind of start to open up to some questions. I really say like the final question here is really just like, what are your competitors going to be doing with these same tools while you're still deciding? There's not a whole lot of things to wait for at this point. Again, whether you do this with us or anyone, make sure you get a community of other people that are doing this, right? You need to be around other people. It's not a good idea to just do this in a silo. You can get lost and go down tracks that don't make sense. Make sure you've got someone that is farther ahead of you who can help mentor you and take you down. Those are the two biggest things you can do to get progress in whatever it is you're trying to do. And we've got a great opportunity here. So I think the link is getting put here in the chat um, for those of you that want to apply. And I guess we can go ahead and maybe open up some questions, kind of go from there.
Yeah, let's do it. I think we'll use the Q&A panel here. You may not be familiar with this, but there's a separately from the chat, which can get a little chaotic. There's a Q&A panel and button in your toolbar. Go ahead and put your question in there, and we'll answer as many as we can in the last 25 minutes here. Um, Looks like we don't have the voting, right? Okay, so we'll just answer these in order. Do you think AI can actually replace a worker at this point? What do you think, Josh?
I think that might not even be the right question if because it's like the right question I think is, well, what can AI do, and are these things that a human had to do before? If the answer is yes, then it can replace work. And at a certain point, then you have individuals who can now, instead of having to hire people to do these specific roles, can have those pieces of that role done. And so it's putting pressure on the workforce, because when you can, I mean, Salesforce came out with this. They said that something like 30 to 50% of their internal work is now being done by AI. And they really don't have a lot of plans to hire any people. And so we're seeing this in organizations. We're seeing where they're saying, hey, prove it can't be done by AI. And so it simply puts pressure on the job market. And then as more people who then can't go out and find a job are now coming into other spaces, if you think about trucking, that may be a ways away from being fully automated. But when that happens, right, that whole workforce is now going to go get retrained, and they're going to come into your industry. If you feel like there's not a lot of people working in it, well, the number of humans looking to go into these quote unquote safe industries that are AI proof is going to increase, which will naturally, by the number of people going into it, make them somewhat less safe. So, I think the short answer is it is doing that, but even if it can't replace the job, it's replacing the need to hire more people. And that's a reality.
Yeah, this was a common discussion topic in the last cohort as well. And I'll just echo kind of Hayden's way of thinking about this. His response was along the lines of like, and this is again, this is what it means to think in a process first way, right? What is a job? What really is a job? A job is nothing but a bundle of related responsibilities, right? Most people don't even think up to that point. They just think a job, oh, that's like a title and something I put on my LinkedIn and I get a paycheck for. No, it's just a bundle, a little package of responsibilities. Well, this is part of what we're going to do is you have to open that box and unbundle those responsibilities. So for example, let's say a CMO. A CMO might be something like around a dozen responsibilities. You could name them, run ad campaigns for our products, develop messaging and brand guides, just like list them. Well, of those dozen, maybe six can be completely automated with AI. Another three can be either partially automated or accelerated, and there might be three left. Okay, so what happens to that job? It's kind of subtle because it's not that AI is replacing that person because that role, that job only made sense when a human occupied that bundle of responsibilities, right? So it's more like it's going to be deconstructed, unbundled, and then reorganized, right? Some of those responsibilities might go to no human, and no human even has to touch them. Other ones, like maybe the CMO will be combined with the head of sales or with some other role. Like the very way that we delimit and define human roles will be completely scrambled by this. And so it's not as simple as like, will AI replace jobs or won't it? It's a little more subtle than that.
Well put. Okay.
Um, Environmental impact. One of the major concerns for my colleagues is impact on the environment, water and energy use specifically. So trying to get the company to pay for the training is really challenging. So this is something that I've sort of been tracking myself quite a bit. If you've been following my content, I've been talking about, researching, writing about climate change for a few years now. But honestly, everything that I'm seeing now is that the environmental impact has been way overblown. Like if you look at the latest numbers, not the ones from a year or two ago, but I think it's like its average ChatGPT query actually uses less than the average Google query. Think about that for a second. You're using more energy doing a Google search, which is like not even 1% as helpful in many cases than doing a ChatGPT query. The other thing I've seen is like if you eat a Big Mac, you're using like 150 times more energy and water and resources than using ChatGPT for a week, something like that. So I just find the environmental kind of concerns completely overblown. You have any comments, Josh?
I'm certainly not an environmental expert, but one thing we can say that we're clearly seeing is like AI will also help solve that problem, right? It's like the amount of breakthroughs that language models can help produce, in energy. It's like you think about the old iterative process where someone has to map out what they're doing and then go figure it out and then iterate through those cycles. It's like that would have taken forever. Now, like take a drone or a drone frame, right? Before you would have had to just make manual versions of that. Well, now you can have a virtual wind tunnel instead of a physical wind tunnel and have it iterate through infinite numbers of different designs to come up with the most aerodynamic shape that in a normal technology cycle before AI would have taken hundreds of years, maybe, to come up with. And that's going to be applied to breakthroughs in almost every category you can imagine, including energy. So, and there's already safer versions of it out there, but on top of what you said, Tiago, like the impact's just not there. But energy, everything technologically is looking a lot more exciting because now we can computate the challenges of those fields and iterate so much faster. So it's very exciting to think about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's go a little faster here. Rapid fire. Alexandra asks, how can we approach a process-driven stage when we're constantly evolving, where the process is always evolving? So what I would say to this is this is the new thing that AI enables, is in the past, it was so incredibly expensive and time consuming to create documented processes that there was kind of this ironic paradox where companies, once they did it, then would be reluctant to change. They'd be reluctant to innovate because then they're like, oh, well, if we change the thing, then we gotta how we do things, then we gotta change this process that we just spent 3 years building. And so this is why you see so many corporations that are what, bureaucratic, rigid, and outdated is yes, they scaled using process, but then they lost their edge. That's what I think AI can change is we have, and just as one example, a prompt that creates an entire package, multiple levels of SOPs in less than 5 minutes. Like literally in minutes, what would take months, if not longer. And so like process becomes rather than a 2 year major tech, integration project becomes just like something you reinvent, maybe quarterly, maybe monthly. You just do a pass on all your existing processes and just update them because AI is very good, not just at creating SOPs, but at updating them. Right? Think about how difficult it is for a human. Oh, we changed one thing in our business. Okay, go find the 15 SOPs that affects. Go through them line by line. Find it might be a dozen different points of those 15 documents that you have to change. Like, I can't think of a I can't think of anything that the human brain is n not designed to do that is worse than that. Like that, and yet that's something that AI is very well suited to. Anything you
Yep.
want to add,
Well said.
Josh?
Not really. I was about to say the same thing. Let's see. What if you're a consultant? How do you impact the company in altering their mindset? That's a good question. I think it depends on the organization and who you're speaking to, and if they actually have, like whether you're talking about convincing them to hire you or convincing them to change and implement the things that you're suggesting. I think that just comes down to being, demonstrative in your process, right? So, there's always like tell me versus show me. So if you can show them stuff, I think then that's very powerful, right? Because it's undeniable if you can show them like, hey, here's an example of how I took one of your processes and created it in minutes instead of whatever it was. So that I would say is an example.
Yeah, I think consultants, I was surprised. They might have been the single biggest group in the cohorts. And I think that's for two reasons. I think consultants are among the most at risk. Honestly, I worked in my last job before starting my current company was in consulting. Consulting is pure knowledge work. It's the most pure form of knowledge work. It's all just information and manipulating information. Well, guess what AI is very, very good at, right? But then at the same time, consultants are also strangely some of the best positioned to take advantage of AI for that same reason, right? They can pivot what they're doing on a dime because they don't have like factories and physical infrastructure. They can just change how they operate and serve their clients better. So I think consultants are on that knife edge of like either this is going to be the biggest risk to you or it's going to be your biggest advantage. The choice is up to you.
Yeah, I would agree. If you're in consulting at all, you need to embrace this. Otherwise, good luck. It's going to be tough.
Someone anonymously asked, could you come to this program with the intention of creating a new business using the model? You can. There were a handful of people like that. Yeah, you can. I mean, you have the advantage then of starting it AI first from the beginning rather than having to like redo something that was pre-AI.
All right, what's the next one you want to answer here?
Um, CXO, so I use CXO. The X is just a placeholder because we do separate projects and separate master prompts for your CRO, CMO, CFO, like each of the main kind of executive functions. So X is just a placeholder for like insert what the function is. I think I'll scroll to the bottom. These seem like they're in chronological order. So I'd love to focus on questions really about the cohort. Like that's what we're here to do. We are launching this thing in a matter of weeks. There's a lot of interesting discussions that can be had around AI generally, but I really want to focus on those of you that are on the fence, that are considering this, that think maybe this is something for me. Like, do you have any practical concerns, any objections or worries that we can address? This is a good one. How many participants? We don't actually know. That is always something TBD. The last one had 88 participants from 54 companies. I would guess probably something similar to that, maybe slightly larger. Let's see what else. Do you have or will you have a similar program for a lower level of entrepreneur? Maybe someday. Although one thing I will say is, one reason that we decided to make this a B2B centric program, which is something that, at least in my company, Forte Labs, we've never done before. We've always been focused on consumers and on individuals. Is I really don't know. It's like at the level of the individual. If you're just an individual learning how to more effectively use an LLM, I don't know if you really need a course or a consultant or a coach. Just ask the LLM. It can teach you. It's the best coach you'll have access to. It's practically free. What we're focusing on is a different level that is more complex and complicated, which is for a business to roll out AI is so much harder, so much more expensive, risky, complicated, subtle. The stakes are so much higher. I would not just go to your LLM, without any human advice or consultation and have it start implementing things in your business. That's really the reason that we're focused on the B2B market because AI is pretty good at the individual level.
What's funny here is one of our participants, Dan Cuddy, here just put a note in here. He said, "Hey, being a participant in the first cohort, I can honestly say that they are actually underselling the benefit of this program. They may be promoting this program because they truly believe that this is going to basically benefit all the participants exponentially. They want us to experience not only growth in your business, but growth in your personal life. This course is transformational and has been the best investment I've made in over 40 years of my career, bar none." Thank you, Dan, for saying that unprompted. And that is the thing is like we're not here to oversell it. Again, the numbers speak for themselves. I have a program of 54 people. Have 54 people go to a restaurant and try to get all 54 of those people to say that we met or exceeded their expectations. Uh, Good luck. Like that just doesn't happen, and that's just because the content, the structure, and the support that we've lined up, and the fact that we've removed the risk as well. So you can come in, you don't have to freak out or be like, oh, did I invest in something that's not going to work for me? You can come in, relax, do the work, and get the outcomes that you're looking for. So, um, another question here is, what if there's a solopreneur who wants to stay solo and leverage AI to expand your impact, revenue, and profit? Is the program a good fit for that? I would say yes, because we're talking about how to use AI. Obviously, the hiring stuff won't be as applicable, but if you need to hire someone, because you might need to, you'll have a lot to work with there. So if you want to have kind of an AI first organization, I would say Tiago, there's still a lot of benefit, but definitely I'd say book a call and let's have a discussion first.
Mhm. Yeah, great question from Frank about confidentiality. So this is the great part. Um, is all of your interactions with AI are between you and it. You don't have to submit anything to us. You're not sharing your proprietary, data, your trade secrets, all of that stuff. Now, there are some concerns between the user and AI, and that is something we talk about. Um, I would say it's not as big of a concern as people think, to be honest. Like ChatGPT now has a HIPAA compliant, if you work in healthcare, for example, has a completely HIPAA compliant version. They have certified policies are used by healthcare, by government, by military even, that are certifiably not training on your data. And then if you're really like extremely, concerned, you can always use a local model. That's not something we like cover in depth, but you can find easy tutorials online to use something like DeepSeek or Llama, which are like almost as good as the proprietary closed models. So easily something that you can use.
Yeah. And those local models are only going to get better. So, it's certainly something you want to adopt.
Great question from Robert. So, okay, so the 10,000 or 9,995 is for one seat, one person from one organization. But there's a benefit once you have that first seat, which is every additional seat, as long as it's from the same company, the same organization, is half that price, is 5,000. So for example, two people would be 15,000, three people would be 20,000. I think the largest team we had was around 4 or 5 people, I believe, last time. But you're free to add. I don't think we have any limit on how many seats you can add. So go crazy.
Yep. And I mean, the key thing there is just we want to make sure we can allocate the resources to support you and make sure everybody has a great experience. And multiple individuals don't require as much support from the same organization, but they certainly do. And we don't want to skimp on any of the support that you need to make sure you've got what's necessary.
Yeah, one of the last, I think it's the second to last module, is all about your AI operator, which you can check out my interview with Rachel. Wow, her last name just escaped me, but on my YouTube channel, I published an interview with her. It's basically the role in your organization that is going to be the main leader and implementer of AI in your company. And the reason for that is we often find the owner or the CEO is not the best implementer because they're too busy and they have too many other things to pay attention to. And so we're going to teach you how to think about that role, how to find that person, whether it's internally or hire them externally, how to train them, how to manage them, because it's really important that you have kind of like a AI czar or AI project manager in your company. How frequently do you plan to run cohorts? We're not sure. It always depends, right? If the cohort doesn't sell, then that business model doesn't work, and so we'll pivot to something else, right? There's no guarantee that we're going to continue to run these. It's really based on how well it goes, the impact that people have, the success ratings. So I'm not sure about future cohorts. TBD.
I was asking you to repeat the cost and technical info about the course. I think we kind of already covered that. Basically, it's just under 10,000. And you've got I'm sure Julia's also putting here like the application and everything. We have a lot more details there, like the dates and everything of the cohort and when those will be done. I believe it's starting in August, first part of August, and we'll run through September.
Yeah, August 11th, we kick off. I love this question by Philip. How much individual time would we have for feedback? So something really funny happened that's also very cool, which is um, at the beginning of the cohort, like the first week maybe, we just had an overwhelming number of questions. Like at the end of every 90-minute live session, there were all these questions, and we usually, would go late. And then we have office hours, and those were full of questions, and then circles full of questions. But after about the first week, at the end of every module, we're basically getting a new section that's being added to your master prompt. We never just have a interaction with an LLM and just like, oh, that was cool and walk away. It always results in an artifact or a document that then becomes a piece of evergreen knowledge that goes into your master prompt. So it's almost like we're creating this flywheel that is your master prompt that starts spinning faster and faster and faster. and takes less and less effort. So by week two, our answer to every question was, what does your master prompt say? Ask the LLM. And then they would go ask their LLM and they would come back and tell us the answer. And it was just like always better than anything that we could have said because the LLM at that point has far more context. It knows your products and services. It knows your org structure. It knows your values. It knows your operational. I mean, how could we ever give an answer that is anywhere as good as that when the LLM now has all your context? So in a way, it's like we're trying to bootstrap you to a level where you have this strategic board of advisors that is better than any human could could give you in terms of advice as quickly as possible, because then you're self-sufficient, you're independent, you can meet your own needs. And so the questions like kind of like declined from that point on until at the end we were like, okay, we finished one of the calls, like any questions? Everyone was like, no, no, I have my advisor over here. We're good.
Which, I mean, the value of that's huge, right? Because, there's nothing worse than feeling like, hey, you can't move, because whenever all of us, I'm sure many of you can relate to this. Like sometimes you find inspiration and momentum at weird times. And, it could be late at night, it could be early in the morning, and you don't want to lose that. And so having to stop and ask questions can be frustrating. And so enabling you to get the answers you need and to de-roadblock yourself so you can just keep moving forward is, I'd say, another big benefit that we helped you guys achieve.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple other, looks like Julia's answering that one. So Heidi asks, what revenue should you be making? So this is one of the difficulties is like, it's really hard to say. Um, we typically use headcount. We typically say the ideal, I mean, really any company can go through the program, but I would say after about 4 or 5 headcount, where you start having like an org structure and you start having, you know, um, just a bigger size team, I think it becomes even more valuable. That said, headcount is starting to be meaningless. When you have a one person, $10 million business, which there's now numerous examples of, or even bigger, like what does the headcount mean? It's one person, right? And so we probably should look into like what is a good revenue size, but I would say it has more to do with your psychology, more to do with your goals, more to do with how determined you are to build an AI first company, whether that's one person and you never want it to be more than one person, or whether you're a 400, 500 person organization like we had. I was just at, I mean, we've even done larger. On Monday, I happened to be in Guatemala for a wedding all last week. And I spent all day Monday at the Santa Ana sugar plantation and mill, which is the third largest sugar operation in Guatemala. And I was there all day and just heard from team after team, probably had 7 or 8 different teams come in and make a little presentation about how they were using AI at a sugar mill, the oldest, you would think,
Mhm.
least innovative industry there is. And they're at peak harvesting season, a 6,000 person organization in one of the oldest industries out in the fields and the fields of Guatemala, and they are ramping up AI across the whole company like you would not believe. It's one of the most inspiring things I've seen. They are not
Yeah.
letting their industry or their identity or the legacy of their company hold them back in any way. Super inspiring. I filmed a YouTube case study that will be coming out on the channel soon, all about Santa Ana, so you can look out for that.
Yep. And it's even being used in concrete. My brother works in that industry. So, even the oldest basic industries are adopting it. And I think the other thing about revenues, it's less about revenue because we work with some international companies. So what's considered good revenue in one country might not be the same in the US or North America. But it's really about the impact and opportunities you have to really take your thing down the field. So I think with that, if any of you are on the fence, right, make sure you do fill out an application, book a call. I'll be able to speak with you and answer those questions. And then if it's a great fit, we'll have you come into the cohort. So we'll send out more. I think the replay, we're going to send that out and some other emails as well. So for the rest of you guys on here, stay tuned. Back to you there, Tiago.
Yeah, I just want to thank you all for being here. I really appreciate your time and attention. I don't take it lightly, and I hope many of you will join us. It really is, I mean, an enormous opportunity. But even if you don't, thanks for being here, and I hope you got some value out of your time here. And I will see you later.